Hello, hello, hello. I got it to work. Sorry, for some reason my live studio wouldn't open. So I was trying to figure out, like I had it scheduled and everything, but for some reason it just wouldn't open. Anyway, okay, so here we are. Mm. Hi everyone, it's Dr. Sasheen. It's our Tuesday tea break. Welcome if you are new to the community. Welcome to Women in Transition podcast community that I'm building here on YouTube and other places where I and other women take rule one very seriously, and that rule is that our peace is non-negotiable. Every Tuesday, unless there's something going on, like, holidays and stuff like that, or life, every Tuesday we meet for approximately 30 minutes and we have a tea break. A small pocket of peace in your maybe already crazy week where you've come off Monday. Nobody loves Mondays, right? But by Tuesday, you're ready to set someone's hair on fire. This is a chance to have a little tea and not set somebody's hair on fire. So, welcome. If you are new to the stream, say hello in the comments. If you are returning, say hello. If you catch the replay, let me know. I'll have to say, it was a little bit later than I wanted to be, about 7 minutes, because the StreamYard and myself were not having a good talk this morning, and apparently it decided it didn't want to remember what my IP address was. So, but we're here now. We have a cup of tea, black cats this morning, as we look forward to the end of the year. This is the last Tuesday tea time in 2025. Say that 3 times really fast. Um, and so I thought today we would reflect on what we have seen and not too much time, 'cause, I don't really believe in rumination, but reflection can be helpful. And then look forward to what you hope to see happen in 2026. My hair is still wet, so ignore the braid. So it's been an interesting year. It's been a long year. This channel is not apolitical, so if you go back through any of my videos, I reference many things that have happened in the United States this year, my thoughts on them, and I'll continue to do so. I just want to put that out there up front. But tea time is more of a time to put the drama on the outside of push it towards the periphery and really focus on our joy. And I really appreciate the fact that the women in this community have been so intentional about protecting their peace, making it non-negotiable, and leaning in to the joy of our life, especially because my channel is really geared towards Gen X women, women in their middle years. Though I talk to all women and men, if you're out there, hi, but I'm talking to women, especially Black women, as we navigate through this thing called the muddy middle, as I like to call it, the middle life. Um, I was reading something yesterday, and it really was an interesting perspective because, and I'm gonna forget where I read it, but if you know me, if I remember where I read it, I'll drop the link, I'll drop the notation so that you know where I got it from. But I was reading yesterday, and the person said, so many of us wake up and wish we were 20 or 30. And what you should do is wake up as yourself at 90 and wish you were 50, because that's what's going to happen. Like, we're going to wake up when we're 80 and wish we were 50 again, right? Wish we had the stamina, or 40. And I thought about that and I realized there's a truth in that statement that is so profound, especially as we navigate the end of the year on this particular calendar. For some people, the year has already ended. For others, the year is still going to be going on for a while. Depends on where you come from, right? And I love that. So your new year, you can have a new year several times a year. But regardless of when the date on the calendar changes for you into new year, it is an interesting thought experiment that I encourage you and us to do, to think about what your 90-year-old self would want to do if they had another 40 years. So if you're 50 right now and you woke up in your 90-year-old body, what would you wish you had done with those 40 more years? 40 more years, not 5 more years, 40 more years. And for some, that question will never be answered. We've had some tragedy in my family this month. December has become a very, very hard month in my world. And I will find my peace through that as time wears on. Grief is always very fresh, but it was an interesting point to read that in this particular season of my life. So, as I was reading through that, and I'm gonna forget where I read that. I read a lot of stuff yesterday in kind of preparation for the week. But it was a wake up moment where it's good to remember, right? That we don't know how much time we have left, but a lot of people spend a lot of time really wishing they could go back a decade and maybe do some things differently. Well, you can't. But man, what can you do in the next decade, right? What's going to happen in the next 20 years? What's going to happen in the next 30 years? If we're all lucky enough, like if this is middle life at 50, then we're going to live to be 100 because that's right in the middle, right? And people are living, not a ton of them, but more and more people are living into their 80s and their 90s and into their 100s. So it's not that far-fetched. It's absolutely not that far-fetched to think that we're going to be around for another 30, 40, 50 years. And to let the rumination of what we have done or what might have been cloud the path ahead of us because we are sad about where we are maybe in the moment or wish that things could be differently right now. And so if we could just go back, well, you can't, but my goodness, we can definitely go forward. And so as I was thinking about how to do the end of the year, um, for tea time and for my podcast. So if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, Dr. Sasheen on YouTube. And subscribe on wherever you hear your podcast. If you don't want to watch my face on YouTube, I have a podcast that I drop new episodes in the new year. I'll be dropping more than one a week. But you know, I had to balance life and work and family. So, but I'll be dropping more than one a week because I would really love to get the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the podcast listeners over 1,000 in 2026. So we're getting close. Um, we're definitely getting close, but I'd like to get it over 1,000. So like, subscribe, and share, or just like and subscribe. You don't even have to share because I believe that people who need this message will find it. They will absolutely find it. Okay, we're gonna pause for a cup of tea, for a sip. Mm. So this morning we're drinking a chai with oat milk, thanks to a good friend, and I love it. It's nice and warm. It's cozy. Like I said, we make the black cat's making an appearance for the end of the year because I don't believe in this superstition that they're bad luck. They've always been very good luck for me. So back to the time that we have left to spend, okay? Because we have a lot of time left to spend. I got my little Let It Snow up in the background. I dug them out. I like to decorate a little bit of the house for the holidays. It's just me. So one of the things I did recently was recommend 3 books for winter as you're digging down into winter. We're settling cozily down into winter that might be helpful to you. And I suggested the 3 books because they're 3 separate types of books, but each in their own way will open you up if you let it. It will allow you to break into some things maybe that you have needed to work on or go some places internally that will help you chart what your next best chapter is supposed to look like. One of those books is my own. It's The Anxiety Solution for those who suffer from anxiety, one of those people who are looking for a pathway who are looking for a pathway and a process by which to manage that anxiety and go on to your next best chapter, leaving some stuff behind. Another one of those books was The Four Agreements by Dama Ruiz, which I probably will read some of that on Thursday. And the third book was The Dance, which I took the cover off years ago, but this is it's called The Dance. And it's actually based on a poem by Orion Mountain Dreamer. And so she wrote this whole book around the pieces of the poem. And I love that because I love prose and poetry. My father's a poet. And it really is one of the most beautiful. I love poetry. I have books on poetry in my bookshelf. And I like how in the poem she speaks to what I think is really important as you navigate through life and you figure out what it is that you really want for the next chapter, the next best chapter, because the middle years are our transition period into the next chapter, which is our older years. I'm not going to say our elder years because I think our older years transition into our elder years. And watching my own parents kind of go through the process, I can see the demarcation points along the way. So the dance, which is in the front, she has the whole poem for you. It's long, so I'm not going to read it. But I do encourage you to find books that allow you to ask yourself important questions as you navigate who you're going to be in 2026. Now, one book I strongly recommend everybody read if they haven't is Project 2025. But if you don't want to read that one, fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. But I think you should find books or podcasts hint, hint, that you can listen to and take in as you chart your way through 2026. So before you get into your vision boards and your journals and your um, manifestation practices or whatever it is that you're doing to help you figure out your goals for 2026, what do you want? Right? Two Thursdays. I didn't drop an episode last week. It was a very busy week. But 2 Thursdays ago, I dropped the episode asking you about your path and what the path needs to look like. And that brings us back to this. What your path needs to look like. And one of the reasons why I did that particular episode is because of a question that came up as I was rereading this book for probably the 10,000th time. And it was, how would this change how you want to spend your precious time on this earth? And she's talking about the dance, this conversation that you're having with yourself. Um, how would you change? How would you change how you show up if you remembered that time was precious? Because it is precious, right? And we're not guaranteed a whole lot of it necessarily, but we get a fair amount of it. And in the grand scheme of things, human existence is a blip, right? Great, great, got it. Yep. We're not as old as even a quarter of the things on the planet. But we're here. And we like being here. And we like the process of figuring out how to be here. And so given that we're here, you're here, and you like being here, and you like the process of figuring out what to do while you're here, leaving more angst in the past is a good idea. Figuring out the what is it that your 90-year-old self wants you to do now? What does she want you to do now? What does she wish you would have done? Does she want you to take a trip to ride hot air balloons at 5 a.m.? Would she really love it if you wrote that book? Would she be so proud of you? Sorry, this is really bugging me because it's tickling my shoulder. Would she be really proud of you if you learned how to ice skate? Would she get a smile on her face? Would she get a smile on her face if you got that degree that you wanted? And I'm team don't go get more education because these folks ain't gonna pay you no more money. But I'm also team enrich your life in whatever ways feel good to you. And if that is if that's another degree, go get it, right? If But back to our 90-year-old self. Would she put on a CD of songs that you recorded because you just wanted your own CD and you didn't need to wait for a record deal or to be famous or anything? Would she chuckle at the remembrance of you um um planting trees where you're not supposed to, maybe seeding wildflowers in green spaces that are supposedly publicly owned and have to be manicured to death? Would she have a gleam in her eye at the night spent dancing under the stars in Napa or Bordeaux or Champagne? Would she have these fond memories of that castle tour that you took because you just wanted to know if the castles in Bavaria are really as beautiful in person as they are when you see them on the screen? Would she lift her hand and remember the feel of the tea ceremony in Japan, where you spent hours learning the fine art of understanding how tea steeps and how to drink it properly? If your 90-year-old self could reach down and touch you on the head and say thank you, would she thank you for swimming with the dolphins? Would she say thank you for seeing Machu Picchu? Would she say thank you for passport stamps and good food? Would she say hell yeah for the 5K that you ran? I did that. Would she say, would she embrace the possibilities of what the rest of your life could look like in the future, in the present, right? So that idea that we wake up and we are wondering sometimes, could I have done 30s differently, or could I have done my 20s differently? Y'all, please. Of course we could have done it differently, but we didn't know any better. But I really loved the idea of reminding people that your 90-year-old self is going to wake up, or your 80-year-old self, or your 90-year-old self is going to wake up and wish they were 50 again, wish they were 45, 40. So if you're already there where they wish they were, what are you going to do differently now? What is it going to look like to spend your next 30, 40 years, right? What is the impetus to make sure that your 90-year-old self looks back and just smiles because she's got some memories. She made some memories, right? Like she had a good time. She chucked her fear out the window, got in the car with her bestie, and rode it till the wheels fell off. And that looks differently for different people, right? But the sentiment is the same no matter who you are. Lisa Nichols, someone else I follow extensively, I love her work. She has said that I think she was talking to her grandmother or a great aunt, and she talks about the dash. Like your life has a beginning point, right? Your birthday, and your life has an ending point. But in between those two dates is this dash, right? And how you live the dash is what matters. How you have lived in that dash is what you want to focus on. Not the end result, not the birthday that you get one every year. If you're lucky, you get one every year. And since you're still here, you got one coming or you already had one. There you go, right? Congratulations. You've come around the sun another 365 days. But what is it the other 364 days? What's going on with those? And so it's it's an easy thing in the new year, at the end of the year, to look back at the things that we didn't get accomplished and put them on the list for next year. But let me ask you, if you didn't accomplish it this year, do you need to accomplish it next year? If you didn't accomplish it this year, is it really relevant for next year? Is it maybe you didn't accomplish it? Maybe you ran out of time. That's fair. But then maybe you didn't really run out of time. It just kept getting pushed to the side because you didn't really want to do it anyway. Is it really that important to carry over the things into the new year that didn't work this year, right? That didn't work. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and that's okay. Is it important to maybe, just maybe, hear me out, check it all out the window and start fresh? Not with big resolutions, but really start fresh. Look at the foundations of things. In the last Thursday video, I pointed out like people get really they jump into resolutions for the new year and motivation statements and manifestation statements and mission statements and all kinds of stuff. But sometimes your bedrock has changed and not enough time is spent making sure your foundation is still the foundation that you're supposed to be standing on. Are are you looking at your foundation and there may be some cracks in it? Not because you've done something wrong, but because you have grown too big for the base. You've grown too big for this base. You need a bigger base. You need bigger goals, bigger dreams, bigger rocks that are immovable. So when I say bigger rocks that are immovable, here's what I mean by that. For a lot of people, we have key rocks in our life that are important enough to us that we'll do anything to make sure they're taken care of. Okay, I call those our big rocks. I call those the bedrocks of our life. And our bedrocks we think don't ever really change, but they do. Think about when you were 20 and the things that you would have put as the foundation of your life in your 20s. Vastly different by the time you hit your 40s. things that maybe were really important in your 20s, by the time you're 40, you're like, what are we doing with this? I don't want to do this anymore. Unfortunately, we don't think that we can make the change or we can choose something else, especially in our 40s, when we start families or we're into careers or we've started the business or we've moved to the place or we've married the boy or whatever, right? We think, oh, I need to slog through this for a few more years and not, not give in to the call of the wild, as I like to say. But the reality is, the decisions that you made in your 20s don't actually have to echo into your 40s, or they can just be echoes. And you can go, oh, those were nice. And I'm done now. I'm going to go do these things over here. And then you hit your 50s to 60s, another 20 years have passed. Are you still standing on bedrocks that are crumbling? So, oh, this one's going to be tough. Okay, let me just say it. Let me just say this. When I was 18, 17, 18, graduated from high school, I know I've got some snow on the chimney, but it wasn't that long ago. I knew unequivocally that I wanted to get as far away from where I grew up as possible. I didn't get very far. I floated around a few years after 18. I went to college, didn't go very far. I went to Iowa, came back home, finished up at a little school near to home, right? But I always had in the back of my head that if I got the opportunity to go, I would go. Finally got the opportunity to go. Didn't go very far again. But a decision was that I made was that if I ever got past the borders of my state, that I probably would never come back. This was a conversation I had at 18. This is what a bedrock looks like. Over the course of time, I got past the borders of that state. I came back for visits, but I never moved back. I now live one state over from the state that I grew up in. Just one state. But I'm still not back in that state. Because part of the bedrock of my world view of the life that I choose to create for myself is the belief that the world is bigger than Missouri, which is where I was born. And because the world is bigger than Missouri, it is my right as a human being on the planet to see as much of it and experience it in as many ways as possible. It's one of the bedrocks of my life. So, from the outside looking in, my life can seem very untethered to people because I don't mind moving around. In fact, I love a new adventure. And for some, that drives them crazy because they want the stability of one place for 40 years. You have to decide what your bedrock is. If stability in one place for 40 years is what you believe is a true pillar of your life, then you build a life that allows you to stay in one place for 40 years. If the passport stamps are your version of one place for 40 years, then you build a life where passport stamps are plentiful and you got multiple passports with whole bunches of stamps in it, right? You build a life that supports that pillar. At the end of every year, we get some options. We get to figure out if our pillars are still the same. And I would hazard to say at certain points in history, and I think we're in one of those points, at certain points in history, the conversation with yourself about those pillars takes on even more significance. I think it happens at the doorways of significant ages when we shift from 29 to 30, 39 to 40, 49 to 50, 59 to 60, 69 to 70, 79 to 80, 89 and beyond. I think when we hit those I call those energy doorways from one existence to the next is the time when the answers to the question of what my pillars are takes on so much more weight. And that weight isn't bad. It should be a conversation that grounds us and sits with us and allows us to think long about what do I want this next thing to look like. Sometimes we get those moments because the world is shifting, rapidly shifting in ways that we were not expecting. And we come to a point where we have to make some very clear decisions about what's important now that may not have been important last year at this same time, or that is even more important from last year at the same time, right? But I don't want you to think about the next 365 that are coming with fear, because we're going to lean into more joy. We're going to lean into protecting our peace. We're going to lean into reimagining our life and doing the things that we need to make sure that our pillars, the foundation of our very existence, is solid. We're going to continue to do all of those things, especially if you're part of this community, because that's where we're going. We're going forward into a new world. Brave New World? Maybe. If you've read that book, you know there's some echoes here that are a little uncomfortable. But there's also a lot of opportunity and possibility for individuals and communities collectively to rewrite narrative. And that is what I want to leave you with today as we come to the end of our tea break. The narratives that we have been listening to, especially globally, politically, are pushing a certain narrative of how they want the world to be. You don't have to accept anyone else's narrative for your life. You don't have to accept anyone else's narrative for your community, right? And so, because narratives are fluid and they're malleable and they tend to be written by people with the largest bullhorn, you have to make some decisions about how you're going to make sure that your narrative gets out into the world. So that when you look at your life and how you're living, your voice is the most important. Your voice is the loudest in your own ear. Not everyone else's, not the political machine, not the world's, but your own. This podcast was going to go away, full disclosure, at the end of this year because I wasn't sure that I still had anything left to say or that anybody would want to hear it. And for all I know, nobody may see this video, and that's fine. But what I decided was I'm going to continue to do this as long as I have something I believe is of value out into the world. And what I know for a fact and 100% certain is that I'm not going to look back from 90 and go, God, I really wish I just kept doing that podcast because I was having so much fun and I just gave up. I got a voice and I intend to use it to help Gen X women who are on the cusp of one chapter to the next find their peace, make it non negotiable, and have the next best chapter of their lives, regardless of what they choose to do with it. So, Thursday, we're going to talk about why I think it's time for you to retire. Ooh, what did I just say? Quitting is not a bad word. And we're going to talk about why 2026 might be a time for you to think about the next chapter in a new place. That's it. That's all I've got for the day. Thank you for tuning in. If you catch the replay, say hello. I hope you have a fantastic new year. Please be safe because I want to see all of your smiling faces again. Catch Women in Transition Thursday for the next drop. Listen to the audio anywhere you get your podcasts. If you catch me on YouTube, please click like and subscribe. It lets the algorithm know that I'm still here and you still want to listen to me. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Cheers and Happy New Year. Bye for now.